Okay, so welcome to this, I'll call this a tropical weather update here. It's September 6th, it's just before 10 p.m., and we have three hurricanes now. Three hurricanes going at the same time, which is almost unheard of in the Atlantic here. We start with Irma. It's still a Category 5, maximum sustained winds, still 185 miles an hour. It is still very strong, hasn't weakened at all whatsoever. Its movement is to the west-northwest at 14 knots or 16 miles an hour. We have Hurricane Jose now, which is strengthened into a hurricane. It's just a Category 1, but it's up to 75 miles an hour, and it is moving west-northwest at 14 miles an hour, 14 knots or 16 miles an hour. And then Katia has just formed in the Gulf as well, a Category 1 hurricane, maximum sustained wind 75 miles an hour. And its movement is southeast, fortunately away from land at 3 miles an hour. So let's go ahead and look at the information for Irma first. We'll start with Irma and take a look at the forecast for Irma. Now we have hurricane warnings in effect here. This is where it is now. So it's going to keep moving pretty much along this line, basically threading a needle almost between the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, which is getting slammed, but Puerto Rico has escaped, I think, the worst part of the storm because the eye has gone to the north of Puerto Rico. When we look at the satellite, you'll see that the eye wall has not hit Puerto Rico. Very fortunate for that. So it's going to continue this way, and then once it gets south of Florida, now this is an unusual track as it is, to just turn into Florida like this, but it's going to get. You'll see when we look at the models, it's going to get sort of picked up a little bit and steered to the north. It takes the eye over Miami. So if this trend continues, Miami, Florida may not have to deal with the north. The worst track for Florida would be a track along, at least in my opinion, a track along the middle or west coast of Florida would be the absolute worst. If it tracks just east of Miami or offshore Miami or off the Florida east coast, then Florida might escape the worst part of this storm. Might. Let's not. It's way too early to say for sure. If you're in Florida, you need to prepare. I expect a hurricane watch to go up there very shortly. The Bahamas already have a hurricane watch. Some of them have a hurricane warning. Again, it has sustained itself for. This is almost a record now. It's sustaining itself at this almost super strength of 185 miles an hour. I call this Super Hurricane Irma or something, all right? Because it's not weakening at all. It's not weakening at all, one bit. But then we have to look at Jose too. So let's see what the Hurricane Center has for Jose. It has its strengthening too, which you have to think to yourself, this is a little unusual because now Jose is probably going to recurve out to sea, or it's going to stay at sea. But it's a little unusual because usually you don't get another strong hurricane behind one. I mean, they're not that far apart. But what's going on is the water temperatures in the even below the surface are rising in the ocean due to climate change. So a hurricane, usually when it passes by, it'll cool the water down because it'll pull out cooler water because it's pulling the heat out of the surface of the ocean. But when there's warm water underneath that, that doesn't happen. So you can have another hurricane basically form, and that is Hurricane Jose. Now we're going to look at this one, Katia. This one might impact Mexico as a depression. It's literally just going to meander over here. It's being kept. You'll see in the models when we get to that. You'll see what's going on with that. So let's go ahead and look at the satellite of Irma. Okay, let's take a look at Irma on the satellite, and I tell you, the amazing form of this hurricane is just continuing. You can see it's shifting from the visible light to the infrared, but you can see. Look at this huge eye. I mean, huge eye, huge Barbuda. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Actually, the eye went right over. The whole island easily fit inside the entire eye. This is a big eye. And hurricane winds extend out about 50 miles from the center of this storm. So it's not a small storm. I mean, I'm not saying it's huge by area, but that eye is just something else to look at. The form of this storm, the outflow, it is for such a destructive thing, it sure is beautiful at the same time. just to look at the amazing form, amazing outflow. She is not getting slowed down one bit by going near these islands. We'll see if there's a little more of a reaction with this one. I think there might be, but the thing is, the water temperatures are still very, very warm over here. Very warm water temperatures in this area to keep this hurricane at a Category 5. Okay, we are using a site called earth-null-school.net. Check it out. It's a great site for visualizing things. And we're doing this to visualize the water temperatures. And the warmest water is in the purple. As you can see, this is some of the warmest water right here. And guess where Irma is heading? Right over this warm water. And there's still plenty of warm water all throughout here. Look at all this warm water. This is plenty of heat energy to keep this hurricane going. It's amazing. It really is. I'm going to go to air now. You'll be able to see the circulation if we do this. All right, so you can see here, looking at, we have the three hurricanes here, Irma, Jose, and Katia over here. So we'll get to zoom in on Irma here. Let's take a look at this wind field here. This is just incredible. But you could see what I mean, that Puerto Rico, the worst part of the winds should be over here in this northeast semicircle, luckily, is staying offshore. But just amazing form on this hurricane. Now we're going to look at some more visual satellite images. So here we go. Take a look at this. All right, so here's a satellite overview of all of them. You have Irma here in the center, the star of the show. You have Jose over here. These are all hurricanes. And Katia. So, and you also have still some smoke over here. Hopefully, we're not going to have to deal with any smoke. We'll get into this clear air. Hopefully, there won't be any smoke that'll mess things up for the weekend. But unfortunately, for the people in the Pacific Northwest, they're dealing with the smoke now. There's always somebody dealing with it until these damn fires are out. It seems like they'll never be out at this point. They just keep burning. But anyway, focusing on Irma here. Here is Irma. And this looks like this was taken before it hit PDOs over these little islands here, which obviously must have gotten absolutely slammed. Absolutely slammed. From what I heard on the news, that many of these islands are now uninhabitable due to this hurricane. And you can see here's Jose. Look at how close they are together. See, here's Irma, here's Jose. And they're very close to each other, which is, like I said, this is kind of unusual to see. And the movement of Irma is going to have an effect on the movement of Jose. So now let's take a look at the computer models. Let's see what the models have to say about the future of where these monster storms are going to go. Alright, first thing we're going to do for something a little different, we're going to look at a spaghetti plot model of all these different models, some hurricane models, all these different models. And you can see a lot of them seem to be trending away from taking it up through the main part of Florida and taking it along the Florida East Coast. Now, the more offshore it is, the better it is for Florida to avoid the brunt. But unfortunately, that means that South Carolina will wind up getting the brunt of this thing instead. And because it remains over water, it probably won't weaken that much. So let's take a look at the model. Okay, so here are the models. We're looking at the GFS. We're going to start with that, and you can see we have this front pulling out of here tomorrow that stalled over us and brought us some rain today. And we're going to have really nice weather here, but let's take a look at the storms going on, because here is Irma, and she's heading toward Florida. The Bahamas are going to get slammed by this thing, and it still has this thing. And here's the thing. The GFS, these really low pressures, we thought that originally, I've heard talk, it's convective feedback, but these low pressures are verifying, and it's very possible that this thing is going to continue to strengthen, maybe even further, because I showed you all that warm water around Florida, so there's plenty of energy there. So what's going to happen is it's going to make a right turn. It's going to start turning off to the north, and the eye might stay just offshore of Miami. But still, if it took this track, the western eye wall would still wind up slamming the east coast of Florida, especially from probably Palm Beach on south. And then it goes out over the ocean again, and so it maintains its strength, and now wallops South Carolina and Georgia too. And this could be one of the worst hurricanes to ever hit that area ever. I don't know if a Cat 5 has ever hit that area, but according to this, it looks like it would be a Cat 5 if it hit. So this would be really destructive, and this would be around Monday. So you can see that we have the high that's protecting us from it coming up our way, thank God. But for these other people, I really just pray for you, man. This is going to be a major problem. So keeping an eye on what did it do with Jose. It just took it out. Just took Jose away. Oh, it's just having it meander out there, actually. And then what's going on is it actually brings Jose back toward us, and then who knows what's going to happen with Jose. He's going to meander out there for a while. He's going to kind of be cut off. I don't know if you see Irma and Jose, there's going to be some kind of thing going on between those two. Let's take a look at what Katia does. Now, see, Katia just kind of goes into Mexico. Because of the ridge, it can't come north. Thank God for the people in Houston. The last thing they need is another tropical system affecting their area. So that is the GFS. Let's take a look at the Euro and see what the Euro has with this storm. The Euro is one of the first models to trend west. And it's still trending west, and the Euro track is now. It looks like it has it coming in. This track would be devastating for Miami and vicinity, and it would take it in, and then. But you got to remember, the Euro is underestimating how deep the storm is already. So that's the scary thing with all that warm water. So yeah, if Irma takes this track, it might weaken a little bit if it goes over land, but it ain't going to weaken much, and then it's going to hit South Carolina. And I mean, this is just crazy, crazy stuff going on. Never seen so much tropical activity ever. But this track here, you have to remember something. Florida is very flat. It's very swampy. And also, hurricanes do bring a lot of rain when they fall. And it's part of the reason why Harvey didn't weaken while it was stalled out, because all that moisture they put on the ground actually winds up being fed back into the storm. I think they call it a brown ocean effect. And so it actually keeps the storm strong. So that is pretty much been this weather update. Keep an eye on everything, especially if you're in Florida. My prayers are with you. If you're on the Keys or any area that's in the worst part of the storm, I would urge you to evacuate. There's going to be, this storm is going to bring everything: wind, rain. There's going to be, if it takes a track that's inland of Miami, there's going to be a very bad storm surge in Miami. Most of the city will probably get flooded. So these are definitely rough times that we're dealing with. But anyway, take it easy, and thank you for watching.